Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for stopping by. If it's your first time here, thanks for visiting. I appreciate it. So about 3 years ago, I did a video on the maintenance of my mowing deck for my tractor. So this is a 2010 Massey Ferguson GC 2610 tractor, and this is a 60-inch model MF2325 mowing deck. Now, this is not a drive over model. It's a push under model. So I did that video about 3 years ago on the maintenance of the deck, and I got a question yesterday from a viewer, and he asked how to release the pins that hold the deck to the lift arms. He said that his won't release easily. They're tight. I suspect that there's still weight on those pins. It's still hanging on the lift arm. So I gave him some advice, but it had been a while since I installed and removed the deck, so I might have given him poor advice. It still applies, and I'll explain it later, but I think I missed a step that I normally do. So with that, I'll bring you in closer. I'll show you the different steps that I do to install the mowing deck, and then the removal of the deck from the tractor. Okay, so the first thing I do is I did a couple of steps off camera just to save a little time. So I rolled the mowing deck under the tractor, and then I lifted the tractor ahead of the recording of the video. That's pretty self-explanatory. But what I do to help with the movement of the mowing deck is I disconnect the wheels, these scalping wheels, whatever they're called. I disconnect those from the deck here. You should set your height, whatever height you want, and then you put the pins in to hold the shaft here in place. So you maintain that height for the wheels. But I think it's the back wheels will stay fixed in whatever position they're in. The front wheels will still spin around, but the back wheels won't. So what I do to help roll this deck is I disconnect these pins, all 4 pins, and drop the deck down. So that gives me a little more clearance under the tractor, and allows all 4 wheels to spin. Now the back wheels still won't spin 360 degrees because they hit the deck there, but they're not fixed in I'll call it a 90-degree angle. You can see where the holes are here. So those wheels would be fixed in that position, and that doesn't allow for good movement of the deck. So I disconnect all 4 shafts, all 4 pins, and that allows me to move the deck a little easier. And then it drops the deck down close to the ground, so it gives me a little more clearance under the tractor. Now the other thing I do is I lift the tractor up, which gives me more room. Otherwise, what happens is, let's see, these front wheel shafts here, they will hit the front wheel drive shaft right there. They'll hit that. And the gearbox might as well, might hit the drive shaft up there. So it's a tight clearance. So lifting the tractor up and dropping the deck down gives me plenty of clearance. So now, getting to these lift arms, what I told the viewer that sent me the question is and I've done it in the past because I had trouble disconnecting the pins or installing the pins into the lift arms. So what I've done, and might have been just because I forgot. I do this a couple of times a year, then it sits all winter. I don't use it. So what I've done in the past is I've actually lifted by hand, lifted the deck up. Once I get it under the tractor like that, I've lifted the deck up and put the pins in. So now the deck's up high, and that will allow, and it's especially important when you're trying to disconnect the pin, it takes the weight off that lift arm. So the deck is sitting up higher, there's less chance for the weight of the deck to be still pulling down on that lift arm. But I think if you adjust, and I don't think I know, if you adjust the height setting here, turn this all the way down to the minus, turn it all the way down to here, that should drop the lift arms far enough down so that they will connect, the pin here will connect and go through the lift arms with the deck sitting close to the ground like that. So we'll do that right now and see if that works. So I'll come around to the other side. Now I've got this deck pretty well lined up with the lift arm. So let's drop the lift arm. I'll push the lever down here and drop the lift arm. And look at that, drops right into place. Well, that was perfectly aligned. So the lift arm's in place. So I'll release the pin here, and then I can just jiggle this around. Kind of hard to do one-handed, but I'm almost there. I think it's going to drop in. There. So it popped in. So that is key, is to make sure your height knob there is all the way down. So that one's popped in. I'll do the other one. I've got to bring the deck back, so I'll make sure that the pin is released. See, there's a little key there that holds the pin back. So I'll release that, and then bring the deck back, and it should pop right in because the other one's lined up. A little further back. Maybe not. There. That popped in. All right. Now, another thing you want to do is make sure that the pins are greased up good, they're oiled up good, so that they move freely. So those two pins are in. And then we have to do the front bracket. So what I'll do is I'll start the tractor, I'll drop it back down to the ground, and then I'll lift the bucket out of the way so I don't have to crawl around between the bucket and the tractor. Okay, so this front bracket connects down under there to the mowing deck, the front of the mowing deck. There are the two pins here, and boy, these need some greasing. Speaking of greasing, those need some greasing. And then there's a pin here in the front that'll hook in right in here. So it's so much easier with the front bucket lifted up out of the way. Now, let's see if I can get you in closer. So now it's close, and I'll release the pin, and then move it around till it drops in place. Okay, so that one's popped in. I'm going to do the other side. That one's in. And I've kind of got my phone precariously balanced on the floor here. So I think you can see what I'm going to be doing. So now we want to bring this up. This handle swivels and the rod here is going to drop into this slot. And then this pin right here is going to go through the hole up here. So I bring this up. There we go. Couldn't see what I was doing. So I brought the handle up, it swivels into place, and then I pull the pin back, and it snaps into place up here. I think you can see that. Now the only thing left is the most fun part, and that's attaching the shaft, the drive shaft, the jack shaft, to the rear PTO or the mid PTO. All right, so there's the drive shaft, and it's got to go up on the mid PTO right there. So it's a tight squeeze, and I try to use both hands. So you got to pull that collar back right there. This collar's got to slide back. You got to pull that back and then slide the shaft onto the PTO there, and then make sure that it clicks in place. There's a little pin, I don't see it now, there's a little pin in there that you want to click. You have to push the shaft on far enough so the pin sits in that groove right there on the PTO shaft. You'll hear it and feel it once it catches. And then I give it a good tug a couple of times to make sure it doesn't come off. Because if that comes off, you've got your your transmission there, the cooling fan is up there. Can't really see it now. That's up there. And then what happens a lot of time is behind this shield is the hydraulic oil filter, and those get snapped off, and then that's a costly repair. So fortunately, I've got the retail REMS Sentinel guard, and that protects the oil filter and protects the fan up there. And it doesn't really get in the way of trying to install the shaft, because I'm working from this side. So this is the trickiest part. Sometimes it pops right into place, from 1 or 2 tries, and other times I'm struggling with it for a few minutes to get it to go in. I think I said it's a tight squeeze. So you got to squeeze in under the deck and between the tire here and this guard and the lift arms and the deck. So I try to lay right here on that cover, and then you have to bend your arm around the connection here and then up into there. It's a real tight squeeze. So you look at it from this angle. This is kind of the angle you're going to be going in at. And you can see it's a pretty tight squeeze. You only have a few inches there. So I'll see if I can set this camera up and show you better. All right, that's about the best angle I can get for you. So I'm gonna slide underneath here, like I said. So I'm laying on the deck, getting in as close as I can. So my forehead is pretty much right on this lift arm. So I line this shaft up, get it onto the PTO, make sure everything's lined up, and then slide. And this time it's going right on. Look at that. Now it's snapped right into place. So I'll see if I can show you. You gotta pull this collar back. All right, so you pull the collar back in that way. So once I get it up onto the PTO shaft, I should have left well enough alone. There it is. So it's sitting on the PTO shaft. Now all the splines are lined up. So I pull that collar back, slide the shaft forward. I felt it click into place, and now I'm tugging on it, and it's not going anywhere. All right, so the final thing to do is raise this back up to the proper height, and you can check your manual, and let's see, where is it? The guides, is it here? Yeah, these guides I think will tell you where to set the wheels for the proper height, whatever cutting height you want. Those aren't supposed to be rolling all the time on the ground. Those are used for an anti-scalp. I believe that's what they are, anti-scalp situation. So if you get too close to the ground, they'll lift the deck up so you don't ruin your blades and don't scalp the lawn. So this guide will tell you where to set everything. So you bring this knob up to the height you want for your lift arm, how far down it'll drop. And then, I won't do it now, but then you want to raise the deck up and set those wheel heights to where they should be. And then to remove it, it's just the opposite process. So bring this all the way down, and that should lower your lift arms enough to, well, no, we'll back up. So what you want to do is, while you have the deck up in the air, still mounted to the tractor, is drop these wheels like I did here. Remove the pins, let the wheels drop. And then lower your knob there, so the lift arms will go all the way down. And then, so now you got plenty of travel on your lift arms to remove those pins. But before I do that, then I disconnect the drive shaft under there. And then I disconnect the front bracket. And then I disconnect these two pins here to the lift arms. And then I roll the mowing deck out. And then lift the tractor back up again. That'll give you the clearance you need underneath. And you'll move the mowing deck out, and you're done. So I don't remember now if I mentioned what I told the viewer that asked the question, but what I said was raise this deck all the way up. Now it's a little difficult when you're installing it, because I think I mentioned what I would do is lift this by hand. So I'm trying to hold the deck up and then put the pins in, raise this up as far as I can, and put the pins in to hold the deck all the way up. And do that to all four wheels, and then that would give me enough room to drop the arm, the lift arms, and disconnect those pins. As I said, if you're not dropping those lift arms all the way down there, you're going to have weight. The weight of the deck is going to be on those pins. You won't be able to pull them out. So that was one way I was doing it. So to install it, I'd lift these all the way up, set the wheels, and then drop the arms and hook them up. And then to remove it, I was doing just the opposite. It was easier because it's up in the air, so I would drop those wheels, lock them in place, set it down, and then drop the arms and disconnect them. But I think the easiest thing to do is to just lower the adjustment knob there all the way to the bottom, so the arms come way down. Well, folks, I hope this video helps those of you who have a tractor, a similar tractor. It took me a little bit of trial and error to really learn how to do this process. And as I said earlier, sometimes I still forget because I don't do it that often. So there was one other thing that I forgot to do in this video, and that was to wear my gloves. I normally wear gloves just so I don't get pinched by anything. There's a lot of moving parts, and to keep the grease off my hands. But with the camera, I was trying to operate the camera and work on the tractor, and with that back and forth, I forgot to wear my gloves. So not a big deal. I'm not too dirty. Didn't get pinched. So no harm done. So once again, folks, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. And I've gained quite a few subscribers in the last few months. So I really appreciate all the subscribers and all the people that stop by and watch my videos and comment. So again, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks.